facing one another. The standoff beats of time. Then all at once, a silence falls as the bell ceases its chime. Upon the sign that challenges, with shrieks and cries rush forth. The knives fly out like bullets upon the deadly course. Screams of pain and agony rent the silent air. Amidst the dying bodies, blood runs everywhere. The figure stands expressionless, impassive and alone, unmoved by this victory and the seeds of death he's sown. Sworn to avenge, condemned to hell. Give not the blade, I'll be the Sentinel. Sworn to avenge, condemned to hell. Give not the blade, I'll be the Sentinel. Sworn to avenge, condemned to hell. Give not the blade, I'll be the Sentinel. Sworn to avenge, condemned to hell. Give not the blade, I'll be the Sentinel.
At home in wild places, she is a stalwart survivor and a strict
Morning, afternoon. T-minus 39 minutes and 55 seconds until Sentinel-6, which is named Michael Freilich after the, let me make sure I get this correct, the recently passed away director of NASA's Earth Sciences Division. Sentinel is a really cool continuation of the original Jason missions that started in 1992. And what they do is they continue the data record of sea level rise on Earth. There's a continuous satellite produced data record of the sea level that has been ongoing since 1992. Sentinel-6 will continue that for the next 5 years. You can read this scroll, but I can read some of it to you as well. This satellite was built by Airbus in Germany, and it's the size of a small pickup truck. It carries... Okay, thank you for that continuation of that sub. Appreciate it. So again, it's the size of a pickup truck. I have some pictures I'm going to show you. The patch is above me here, which I'll also show you more up close. It carries a radar altimeter, a microwave radiometer, and instruments that precisely locate where the satellite is in orbit. Like, they know it's satellites wobble a lot, especially when they're in geosynchronous orbit. This thing has instruments to say, basically, I am precisely here when I'm taking this, and that's important for that aforementioned continuation of a data record. So this thing can track changes in sea level down to the centimeter, and that is one of the things that is obviously a consequence of climate change. Predecessor satellites in this series have shown the rate of that sea level rise and how quickly it is accelerating. This satellite will continue that mission. The secondary objective, as you can read right now, is to get high resolution profiles on temperature using the Global Navigation Satellite System Radio Occultation, or GNSS, sounding technique. So it's basically testing changes in the atmospheric layers on top of doing this research with respect, or this data tracking with respect to sea level. So let's get some things out of the way. Climate change is real. This satellite is one of a family that proves that is true. So please don't have anyone come into this stream and suggesting that climate change is not man-made. It is a threat to this planet, and this satellite is a big deal simply from the perspective that it will allow us to continue to produce that evidence, hopefully to continue to convince people that maybe we should do something about it. So the launch is scheduled for 12:17 p.m. Eastern Time. We are in California today, on the West Coast, so don't worry about the radar over there, because that would be horrible. The cloud cover would be really bad for launch if we were in Kennedy today, but we're at Space Launch Complex 4E, and the E stands for East. The SLIC system, what SLC stands for, is actually much cooler than the way in which they have historically done launches with the vehicle assembly building at Kennedy. It's actually this system that you see where the building kind of comes around the rocket. They do their work, and then it separates on train tracks and moves away from the rocket. So the rocket itself is in its launch position for a pretty long time. Yeah, this would also be unofficially named "See, We Told You So." So let's have a look at that mission patch for starters, and then we'll get into some pictures of the satellite itself as we get ready to count down things here for launch. So this is the patch. This is the graphic of the patch. The actual embroidery is a little bit lighter in color. I do have it on order. Hopefully it'll be here soon, but it was through an eBay source that I'm aware of to get patches. So, man, my beard is itchy. So it really just shows the Earth, and it's making a focus in its colors with respect to the oceans. And obviously the satellite is above it, and that's kind of how it looks. And then SpaceX always throws a four-leaf clover symbol on their patches. But with respect to what it looks like, this is Sentinel-6 loaded inside the fairing of the Falcon 9. Falcon 9 is a 70-meter tall rocket. That is the exterior of the fairing. That is with the fairing almost closed around it. Back to the original. So it's a big satellite. Airbus doesn't make small sats; they make big ones. And this, like, if you get in your mind the scale that thing is the size of a truck, that'll put into your brain the scale of the fairing and the rocket. This is a little bit more of a close-up of that same shot, just showing you, one, how intricate the interior of the fairing is, how large those solar panels are, and then the mounting apron that it is on the second stage. So over here, we are waiting for NASA to go live. They say they're going live in 3 minutes, which is why I timed it like this. I'm getting out of the business of doing the Starlink launches just because they're repetitive. They're the same thing over and over and over again, and I actually don't like the idea of supporting space garbage at this point, like we talked about during the Rocket Lab stream. There's too much space junk and not enough responsibility, and with a 6% failure rate, yeah. So we will see this thing launch from the west coast. Its orbit is not typical. It's in a very high, high arcing orbit that's not at the same altitude all the time around Earth. But it is in a non-sun synchronous, high arcing orbit to allow it to capture as much of the ocean as possible repetitively. So thanks all for tuning in this morning. I know that we have had 3 launches this week, including this one. Reports from the range out at Vandenberg are that they are good to go, both from a weather and a TDRS and a clearance perspective. We can get an idea of what they look like out there from this photo until they go live. This is the SLC facility that SpaceX, I believe, has out at Vandenberg. You can tell by the hills rolling in there.
2 in the box. Ready.
Yep, I know you got a room to paint, Perm. Thanks for hanging out. And we'll wait for NASA to go live with it. See if it's NASA coverage or if it is SpaceX's coverage. But it's important to note that this is a joint effort satellite mission. It's not just NASA's bird that's going up today. Components of European space agencies, individual European nations are involved with it as well. And again, it is a continuation of a long-running mission series. The idea that we have this data record, and that is, when I say data record, I mean an uninterrupted chain of data evidence that from 1992 to now that shows sea level rise, that shows how quickly the sea is rising. And it's astonishing that in the face of that amount of data, you know, we're talking nearly 30 years of data, that there are still people out there that go, I don't know if we should do something about this, because, I mean, it's not going to affect my parents' generation so much. It will affect me at the end of my life more than, you know, than the immediate, but my kids are the ones that are going to have to face the future with climate change. And it's not just sea level rise, it's, you know, the sea level rise, the warming temperatures, the warming atmosphere, all those things contribute to the, you know, how many hurricanes do we have and how late in the season are we having them. Look at the catastrophic effects in the ocean that are happening, that are running into the land, that are costing us billions of dollars because insurance has to pay out and federal agencies have to go help people. And we're reaching a crisis point with climate change where if we don't do something soon, and I mean significant soon, get off fossil fuels, reduce carbon emissions, get industries to start adopting green policies, get out of the running cars off of, off the same fossil fuels. If those things don't change within the next 8 years, we're in trouble. Like, significant lifestyle change will occur within the next 40 years if we don't get that done. So this mission is hopefully going to continue to provide that evidence that says it's time to wake up and do something. Science is undeniable with respect to climate change. Whether the scientific community has a total consensus that it's completely man-made, which is the fact that it is occurring, and there are factors that mankind has contributed to that occurrence, is undeniable. Major factors. So, again, that's what this launch is about. We'll wait for NASA to go live. They say 11:45 on their go live here, and they're not live yet, and it is 11:45. So we will wait to see what they have to say when they decide to go live. Does anybody want to talk about any of this or have any questions about any of this? I'm more than happy to talk about that stuff. If not, so Falcon 9 is filling with kerosene and LOX propellants at Vandenberg ahead of launch. That is good. That means the go no go poll for prop load went through just fine. Western range is still confirmed go. The weather is sunny. Let's see. Yep. 2 main stages get RP1. That is happening now. Talk about anything. This, Rocket Lab, recovery, what happened with Crew 1.
Than any particular agency.
And there it is. You're going to see a lot of dedications on Michael Freilich today.
Single nation. It's bigger than any single continent. And I surely hope, because humanity requires it, that we make some significant progress in understanding.
You start to realize the importance of understanding what sea level is doing now. We can use that understanding to know what sea level might be doing in the future.
Scientists around the world are using these data to help people.
The importance of this project and where it touches is on all walks of life.
It's an Air Force base, Dustin. It's a U.S. Air Force missile range. Been there. I know my dad's been there.
Sentinel-6, Michael Freilich, is all about water.
Freilich. Okay, that's how you pronounce his name. So there's your launch complex out at Vandenberg Air Force Base.
And in just about half an hour, this SpaceX rocket will launch the Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich satellite into space to continue the important work of monitoring changes in our oceans around the world. And so it seems fitting this satellite will begin its flight over top of the largest ocean in the world, the Pacific. Welcome everyone watching on NASA and SpaceX's
Daryl Nail.
platforms. Thank you for joining us here at Vandenberg Air Force
Can't remember
Base
that dude's
on the
name.
coast of Central California. I'm your host.
Yeah,
Daryl
so the
Nail,
Air
and
Force,
with
up
me
until the
is
evolution of
Marina
Space
Jericho
Force, has
with
been
NASA's
entirely
Jet
responsible for the
Propulsion
deployment of
Laboratory.
satellites,
Good
especially
afternoon.
to,
Oh, thank you
polar
so much,
orbits.
Daryl. I'm so honored
But
and
the
excited
Air Force
to
has
be here.
governed
The launch
all
pad
U.S.
right
DoD and a
behind us,
lot of
Sentinel-6
other
getting ready
entities,
to
satellite
launch
operations.
and giving us
The people that I
another
used to work with to
decade
get
of
bandwidth
sea-level
were Air
observations.
Force,
The
and
science
I was an
return
Air Force
is so
person that was
critical, and I'm so
making those
excited to be here.
communication
Now, you're a
hookups from the ground.
meteorologist as well, so you know the value of the
Yep,
data
Clark
that
Kent,
can
that's
be
Daryl
fed into
Nail.
the satellite once it gets into space and starts working. But
Apparently
now
it's
comes the
cold
fun
out there in the
part,
desert.
which is launching it into space.
I know, and I'm feeling so excited to get this Sea Scout launched and into action. I'm so invested in the incredible data that's going to come from this satellite, the legacy that it follows.
I mean, you can
and
go into
continues.
up into the
And we
Dakotas.
all
There are
live
missile
on this
ranges up
earth
there
here
too. They're
together,
not the
so
kind of
we
missiles
need
that
to
launch
make it a
satellites,
better
but there are
place
missile
for
ranges
everyone.
up there.
Well said. And right now, as far as the rocket's concerned, we are go for launch. We'll get an update from Launch Control in a minute. We'll take a look at the pad, though. The rocket looking beautiful out there on Space Launch Complex 4.
That's a lot of
Now,
microphones.
coming up in the show, we'll learn more about Michael Freilich and why this satellite was renamed after him before he passed away. We'll also talk live with his son and his daughter after the launch.
The satellite he's named for can do some incredible science. We'll show you how it detects sea level changes down to a single centimeter and how it helps forecasters make better
Crazy.
predictions about the strength and the path
The
of
fact that it
life-threatening
does
storms like
orbital
hurricanes.
linking with other
And just
satellites
before
doing the
launch,
same
we'll
sort
talk
of
about
work
the cool
is not
secondary
easy.
mission of the landing of SpaceX's first stage booster right back
Yeah,
here on
this is a
land,
return
just a few
to
hundred feet away from the
site
launch pad.
landing
Then after the launch,
for
join us
Falcon
for a
9.
live
There is no drone ship
transatlantic
out there. This is coming
conversation
right back to
about
Vandenberg.
climate with scientists from NASA and ESA, European Space Agency.
But first, let's introduce you to the team of commentators who will be calling the launch today. NASA's Joshua Santora and launch trajectory analyst Philip Hargrove. Gentlemen.
Terrell, Marina, it's a pleasure to be here. Just really an honor, like Marina said. I am Joshua Santora with NASA Communications, and joining me, Philip Hargrove from NASA's Launch Services Program, or LSP. Philip, it's a pleasure to have you with me.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so we are super excited, feeling the energy even from the East Coast, where we are
There she
located
is.
currently. The launch team, due to COVID environments, we're split across the country right now, trying to very literally
You need
distance
to
ourselves.
clear the
But
nonsense
part
off
of
the camera.
The Launch Services programs, their services provided, is to keep
Yeah,
everybody
the
around the
United
world
States
that needs
Air
to be
Force, this is
informed
again
on what's
prior to
going on,
Space
actively
Force
in
and
the
whatever
loop,
they're
and
doing
that's
with
true for
that.
us here today.
But the United States
We're
Air Force's
listening
mission has
to
always
everything
been
happening behind the
not
scenes, the
just
entire
air
countdown procedures.
superiority, but
So
air and
Philip,
space
how are
superiority.
things
So
going in the countdown procedures?
the governance
things are going
of
really great. It's been a big
many
week of
items
preparation,
in
and we're
space
finally in the
has
final
always
stretch,
been the
just
Air
about
Force's
25
purview. The
minutes
satellite
or so
bandwidth
until
controllers,
launch.
and I can talk
It's been a
about
smooth
this
count so far
someday
this
if you
morning.
guys are
The
interested,
teams
but
got on console
they're
about
responsible for
3.5
power
hours
management
ago, around 6
on the
a.m. Pacific
satellites,
time.
like who
And
accesses
about
from where
15
at
minutes
what
ago,
level of
NASA's
DBM,
chief
and they have to keep the
engineer,
transponders
Akash
balanced so they don't
pulled
blow
his
up.
team, the NASA engineers, the NASA launch manager, Tim Dunn, pulled his team to ensure that NASA is ready for launch. And just a few minutes ago, the SpaceX launch director, Eric Kraskowiak, pulled his team to ensure that they were
let's
ready
see
for
here.
fueling, which just began recently.
SpaceX launch director
So
verifies
the
all
range
stations are go for
is
propellant
good
load,
as well,
which is
means that the
underway.
path to
Cryogenic
space is
load
safe
will
for the
begin,
rocket
has
and
begun
safe,
in Falcon 9's first
for the
stage.
public, and the Falcon 9
Lock's
is
second
also
stage
proceeding
load will
nominally towards launch.
commence at T-minus
All
16
good
minutes.
things. Obviously, lots of teams there involved, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But want to preview for you the fact
That's why I
that
have
we
an
have
emote,
instantaneous
Fish,
launch windows
because I don't
today,
want my
meaning
my
that we
spell
have a
check
single
getting
second to be able to
corrupted.
fly. We have a backup opportunity available tomorrow if it's needed. But that launch time today is at 9:17:08 Pacific time. Again, a reminder, we're launching from Vandenberg
So let's get
Air
this
Force
clock
Base,
synced up
Space
here while we're
Launch
counting
Complex
down. We're a little
4
bit ahead of
on
them.
the
We
West Coast.
are
So for those of you
about
here on the
40
East Coast,
seconds ahead of
that's
them, so let's go
12:17:08 Eastern time.
get
So
that tweaked.
lots more to come. Daryl, we would
See how
typically
close we
provide
get.
you an update on the weather as well, but since you're there
I was
experiencing
off
the
by
weather
about a
and
second.
alongside a professional meteorologist, we'll let you take that one.
All right, so the clock above me is accurate to the webcast. How often do you say Fish? Every time I see Fish, I say hi to Fish. Fish is worth the corruption. Wind would be a bigger issue, but wind doesn't play as much of a factor. Okay, so wind is a factor, right? Upper level wind is a problem with trajectory. Reread that. Fish is worth the corruption.
Here at Vandenberg, and I've only seen one of them because there's always
How often do you say
fog
fresh,
along the
really?
central
Gotcha.
coastline.
I mean, I said
Fog
fresh
means
a lot in the
really
90s,
calm
not so much
conditions.
now. Thank
And
you.
so in order for calm conditions to happen, you can't have wind. But we've got a lot of wind out there today, and that is why we have no fog. But that wind might create a problem, and so that's why we need to keep a close eye on those upper level winds.
Yeah, it's the
for
upper level
this
winds that can
rocket. But you
affect
see
the
behind me,
vehicle's
we have a
trajectory. The
couple
low level
high
winds for
level clouds
recovery
out there.
are
Those
not a
just
big
cirrus
deal.
clouds. I like to call them horsetails, but they are not going to affect
She
the
really,
rocket
really likes
in
calling them
any
horsetails,
way.
too.
It's a beautiful day. It's a clear day, but it is a little breezy. Now, 50% of launch scrubs are due to weather, and about 30%
They just had that Will Smith, like, Fresh Prince reunion show or something.
And so these winds occur
I didn't watch
basically
enough Fresh
between
Prince to
20
care about it, but I know it
40,000
just
feet,
happened.
So pretty high up in the air. And the rocket, it's like hitting a brick wall when they hit those upper level winds.
Well, it depends
And upper
the
level winds also
way in
change
which the upper level
direction
winds are
with
blowing.
height. So
If it's a
it is
brick
not
wall
good
or
for
if
the
it's a
rocket,
kick
but
in
I'm sure
the tail.
meteorologists are on top of it this morning at the weather office, and they're going to make that decision right before launch. But taking a look right now,
The fact that
at
they
our
went to
radar,
prop load
we can see
is
that
good
it
with
is
respect to the winds.
crystal clear out there,
Yeah,
folks. So we
precip's
have
not
no
a problem.
precipitation to deal with.
That's
Like I said,
that's
these
NOAA.
clouds are
That's
not
their
gonna
local
be a
NOAA
big
office
issue
they're
in
using
any
right there.
way,
I know
shape,
those
or
graphics.
form, which is good. They're just nice, high-level cirrus clouds.
Yeah, that's kind of
And
thing. It's like
looking
if it
at
was
our
on
launch
TV, which I
weather
don't own, I'm like,
forecast
yeah, let's
for
watch
the
that
day
because
today,
whatever. But
we are 80%
winds 8 to 12
go
knots
for
north.
probability
That's
of
not
launch,
awesome.
and that 20%
Percent of violation. That's good.
is just
We're
for
80%
the
good.
potential of those winds. So it's looking beautiful.
I believe that's coming from the 81st Space Wing. I believe
believe
that's the organization out there responsible for the weather forecast. It'd be the 81st Weather Squadron, but
and every time we just see so much fog in the area. So
I'm going to turn them down because I know that we're talking over each other. There we go.
The Santa Ynez River spilling into the Pacific Ocean. It is an incredible view. We are Blessed indeed.
It is so beautiful.
The T-minus 22 minutes 40 seconds. Winds are the only concern according to the commentators. I'm not seeing that being repeated anywhere else. The winds are a concern. The range remains green. So it is a matter of a 20% chance for violation on upper level winds right now.
SpaceX's launch team is working the countdown from their control room, while NASA's Launch Services Program, it you see right there, is at the Mission Directors Center just a few miles away. Now, shortly after Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich is launched, it will start gathering a lot of data about our oceans.
It's actually a really cool mission.
And that data will be collected by high-tech instruments on board the satellite.
High-tech. Could explain high-tech and like what a radiometer does.
From an early age, I saw images of the Earth from above. And you just realize how much is going on in the ocean, the variability that's there, the changes that are occurring. It really became a passion of mine to understand what's happening in the ocean. So sea level rise is really interesting because the impacts are local, but it's a global problem. So I've done a lot of work looking at sea level rise in particular locations.
22 years sea level height change was that thermal looking graphic. It didn't have a green area anywhere.
The satellites orbiting the Earth and where they are right now. Having overlap between the different missions allows us to make a direct comparison.
You see the Jason satellite, Jason 2 is their Cygnus was there. These are all satellites that communicate with each other in different times to convey each other's data.
A really long record that'll exceed 30 years with the Sentinel-6 satellite allows us to have a better understanding of how the Earth's climate is changing. So this is an animation of the Sentinel-6 spacecraft and how it collects information about the sea surface. You can see the radar pulse that's bounced off the surface of the ocean. It measures the time it takes for that pulse to get back, and from that we can pull out the measurement.
What's up, Dad? How you doing?
It's not just scientific curiosity. It really impacts the daily lives of people and their ability to plan for their future. As I started to live in coastal areas and see flooding that was occurring, I got to see firsthand the effects of sea level rise and climate change. You start to realize the importance of understanding what sea level is doing now. We can use that understanding to know what sea level might be doing in the future.
Daryl didn't know which camera to look at. Or he's back on.
Coming up after the launch, we'll talk live with scientist Josh Willis, who's actually going to perform a live science demonstration about our rising seas. It's going to be something you want to check out.
And he is so incredible. I'm so glad Josh is with us this morning. You may have noticed this satellite was named after Michael Freilich. He led NASA's Earth Science Division for more than a decade.
And he did an outstanding job.
Passed away from cancer this year.
Cancer in August of this year. But as you are about to hear, leaders in the space and science community around the world explain why they all agreed to rename this satellite after Michael Freilich.
I was so excited to receive a letter by the European Space Agency and the European Commission proposing that Sentinel-6A should be Sentinel-6 Mike Freilich.
Having a satellite named after you is pretty remarkable. It's not something we do in Earth science very often.
It's not only ESA, it's Europe who wishes to honor Mike Freilich.
Mike Freilich has been instrumental in making Sentinel-6 a satellite that measures with very high precision sea level rise.
The Sentinel mission.
Your dive gear is ready? Where are you going diving, Dad?
It really epitomizes the role that Mike has played over the years as championing partnerships, championing collaborative investigation of the Earth.
Names are reserved for the greats. You don't
I assume there's a vacation coming
soon. Satellite after somebody who just does their job.
It's the second mission ever named after a person who's alive. It's a huge honor, and I couldn't be more.
Well, he's not alive anymore, so
this
was recorded a while ago.
A unique cooperation between the US and Europe. And
Michael Freilich has, in the time he's been at NASA, I mean, you saw it in the beginning. The guy is, look at him, he was an enthusiastic advocate for oceanographic sciences and for scientific investment in understanding global warming. So, naming a satellite after him is appropriate.
They are about friendship and my.
He took over a program that had been running this aspect of this program. Oh, dive gear ready for when sea levels rise. I mean, they're rising faster than we thought even 2 years ago, and this satellite will help to continue to document that so that we can build the necessary data sets to have more accurate predictions. On that note, Jim Bridenstine, who just saw the current director of NASA, will be stepping down when the new administration comes in. He says basically under no circumstances will he continue to be NASA administrator.
Michael Freilich touched so many people personally and professionally. And
New York
you had
City
a chance
streets.
to listen to him one time.
You're gonna go scuba diving in the New York City streets when the sea levels rise. Okay.
So moving. His passion for Earth science missions was just incredible, and it was an honor to be.
I don't think they'll be high enough within my lifespan.
Michael Freilich satellite has a long journey ahead.
And the impact is more about storms, damage to coastal areas, 50 years from now maybe.
Halfway around our planet, just to get to the launch pad behind us. NASA's Blair Allen tracked its journey.
Let's Airbus flying this thing in.
September 24th, Sentinel-6 completed its flight from the Airbus facility near Munich, Germany to Vandenberg Air Force Base and was transported by truck to the SpaceX facility at Space Launch Complex 4.
Also, this is the maiden flight for this booster as well. This is the second one this week where SpaceX has flown an untested booster. And I guess we're starting to call them that because they are getting up into the 6th tier of reuse on some of their boosters.
Over the last few weeks, they have thoroughly tested and checked out all aspects of the spacecraft to ensure it's ready.
That big cone right there, that thing that's sticking out on the left, that's the radar.
The next critical step, the integration of the spacecraft with the Falcon 9 launch vehicle. Sentinel-6 was carefully encapsulated inside the rocket. Yesterday, Sentinel-6 and the Falcon 9 rolled out of the SpaceX hangar, covering the last few hundred feet of its journey on Earth to reach the pad at Space Launch Complex 4.
This is the 99th launch of a Falcon 9 since 2010. The 107th total launch overall of a Falcon family vehicle. This is the 7th launch of an Airbus satellite by SpaceX. The 22nd Falcon 9 this year, the 22nd SpaceX launch this year, and this is the first orbital launch from Vandenberg this year.
Separately, NASA and the European Space Agency have studied the oceans.
T-minus 15 minutes, 30 seconds.
Have joined together for Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich. Joining us now is ESA's Guido Livrini, the Copernicus Space Segment Program Manager. Guido, it's great.
Copernicus does cool things like tracking icebergs. They're going to use this satellite for that. Like there's an iceberg heading for Germany right now that if it wedges can cause some serious problems for wildlife there.
It's a big emotion. This project started in ESA more than 10 years ago. So it's been a very long journey. There are many memories that stand out, but the most vivid one is a lecture by Michael Freilich. He was just a few months after his retirement, so he was no longer the NASA director for...
All right, there is a clean audio feed of SpaceX Control going through the final countdown here. I am going to go ahead and pop that up.
To make a lecture by our
we can hear it.
in Milan. It was July 19, and he gave us a lecture on international cooperation.
Until it starts echoing with the launch coverage here.
It made us realize that
what's up, Poe? How you doing? Me and Terry were talking about mile marker 141 this morning in Dustin Stream.
Here, I've been thinking about his words quite a lot. And indeed, he was right. If you think of a mission like Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich, it's a mission about sea level rise, it's a mission about climate, it's a mission about safe navigation. There is no reason why a specific agency or a specific country
ESA also has a stream up.
Care more than anybody else in the
I don't know, man. We had some snow the other day, but it didn't stick. The temperatures are going to drop here in about a week, but we'll see where they are. They're going to be in the mid-30s in late December.
Cooperation is the only appropriate way, the only correct way to realize a mission like that.
You're absolutely right. We're all in it together.
That's so true, Guido. And you're right. Michael was such an inspirational speaker, and this collaboration is so beautiful.
T-minus 15. We're still good to go. Range is still green. Weather's not in violation. Again, there's only a 20% chance of high winds in the upper level causing a problem here.
First of all, we should all be aware of the fact that naming a mission after a person and a living person at the time is a unique
spacecraft is on internal power and is go for launch.
Of this kind. It was an honor, but we are honored to work for a mission that carries this name. And the answer to the question,
unless we get one of those Arctic vortexes, you know, those polar vortexes that cause us to go into one of those week-long snaps where it's like 18, yeah, I don't think we'll get much snow that'll stick.
Standing here today.
Well
So
said.
true.
That's that's quite the honor. You're right. They do not just name any old satellite after any person. So it's quite an honor. Guido Lavrini, with program manager for the Copernicus program. Thank you so much for spending your time and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Guido. Guido Lavrini with the Space Agency. Thank you.
We appreciate you being here. We want to take a brief moment now to honor our country with the singing of America the Beautiful.
And we're thrilled to bring
NASA
you a
always does
virtual
this.
rendition sung by Musica, a group of youth ensembles and youth orchestras from
T-minus 12 minutes.
Florida, and the Carolinas.
All those kids singing. Everything's still green. I don't know, it's interesting for NASA to choose a U.S. patriotic song when this is an international mission. I get that they do this every time that they do a broadcast for a liftoff, but... What's up, Diggity? Welcome in. T-minus 10 minutes, 45 seconds for Sentinel-6 liftoff, which is, again, a pretty big deal continuation of a long-running sea level data record, as well as measurements of upper-level atmospheric temperatures. The big science mission around sea level rise and global warming. Taking off from Vandenberg at Space Launch Complex 4 East, which is SpaceX's facility out there. They're above Shark each. I don't even know what you mean, Dad. So, this is a Vandenberg Air Force Base launch on the west coast of the United States. It's going to go into a non-solar locked polar-ish orbit. It's going to loop around the Earth a lot more sharply. And it's not a fixed altitude orbit.
That was so beautiful. And it's so great to see all the kids playing and singing.
You're saying that the beach is above where sharks are at Vandenberg? I think I'm piecing together what you're saying.
That's tough to get everybody in tune when you're not together.
All in separate locations, but so many orchestras and singers across the country are doing just that to keep the arts going.
It was beautiful.
All right. Well, we are now T-minus 10 minutes until launch, and this mission has a special treat for everyone watching. SpaceX is planning to land their booster just a stone's throw away from the launch pad.
Yep.
Yeah, SpaceX has landed their first stage 65 times.
So with those cameras on board, we should get a pretty good view of the coastline as she comes back down. Usually this is for a KSC profile.
You might recognize her from such popular NASA SpaceX shows as Crew 1, Demo 2. Thanks for being here. It's great having you.
Let's see if she talks with her hands a ton. Hey, there it is. Immediately. There's Jessie Anderson. She doesn't know how to talk without this. But given the profile of a Kennedy launch, the S1 separation return to land back at the pad is usually around the 9-minute mark. We don't have a detailed mission profile for this, so we'll see how long that takes.
And Vandenberg is known.
Yeah, I mean they're not very they're on the Vandenberg range.
All I saw was fog.
Indeed, was a welcome in.
But didn't actually get to see it with my eyes. So I'm really excited that it's a clear and beautiful day today, and hopefully we'll be able to see both launch and landing clearly.
No doubt, it's looking good so far.
Now, for those of people who are unfamiliar with the process, how exactly does the booster landing work?
Oh yeah, this is really cool. So after stage separation, second stage makes its way on its way to orbit, but first stage actually does a flip maneuver. So it continues.
And then it extends its grid fins, and those grid fins help to
And then we have
level it as it
3
comes
bursts
down, and
that
they
it does.
yeah,
So
then
when
they
it's
burn a
doing
bunch
that
of times and they
fast,
land,
it's a boost back
and then
burn,
legs come out.
which is 3 of the 9 Merlin 1 engines.
That's what we're
So
hopefully going to see today. Look how close that thing comes down from the launch facility, like right next to it.
Down as it enters back into the Earth's atmosphere, and then it comes back down and lands with just one single engine for the final landing burn.
It is the neatest thing to see in person, and it is loud. There's big.
Yeah, there's a sonic boom as it comes back through the freaking sound barrier.
We want to actually share a special question.
You're in Vandenberg today, Woozle, out in California. This isn't at Kennedy.
He contacted NASA and shared this picture with it. We want to put it up on the screen. He made a
How do NASA and SpaceX achieve the pinpoint accuracy they need to launch? Math.
Sand, rice powder, and/or flower petals in the shape of a rocket. You see it there? There's
It's so beautiful.
It's really pretty.
So excited.
So they're here for the launch.
Yeah, it'll be right. They just showed it, Dustin. It'll be basically right back at Slick 4E. It'll be right next to it. It'll be shocking how close this thing gets to that. Because when we see like for a Falcon Heavy launch, when we see those twin boosters come down, that's actually reasonably far from 39A. It's still at Kennedy, but it's not right at 39A. This is like, you're talking really close. You can measure it in yards.
The vehicle is completely autonomous. So, as you know, the vehicle is moving so fast, human reaction is not quick enough to...
It's interesting that Jessie Anderson re-dyed her hair from Wednesday to match her outfit to whatever color it is today.
Amazing, and you guys have gotten so good at it lately. So
Not that we track these things here at BOSA, but we do keep track of this. It's for more. I know Rocket's got a thing with the hands and how they can't seem to have a conversation without using the hands all the time. Poe gives my dad a subscription. Enjoy the emotes you have just gained access to.
is upon us. We're going to hand it over to Joshua Santora and Philip Hargrove.
Thank you for the donation, which supports disabled American veterans, Poe. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much. It's been an active past few minutes, starting to hear calls of closeout things. But before we go too far,
Terry, thank you for the sub.
To introduce us to the team.
4 months. Much appreciated, sir.
There are teams of teams really working this launch. Who do we have on board today?
You're absolutely right. So we have our international partners.
What's up, BP? Welcome in. T-minus 5 minutes and 35 seconds.
Propulsion Lab, or JPL, who have science instruments on board the spacecraft that was developed by ESA.
Hey, Vector.
SpaceX obviously manufactured
Hey, Vector.
and produced the Falcon 9
Find your
rocket,
charger.
and the NASA Launch Services Program,
Dustin
or
woke him up
LSP,
earlier.
has been working closely with them for the past couple of years to prepare for
Don't forget to go
today.
give that guy a follow as well. Terry does stream on Twitch occasionally.
Propellant tanks are pressurizing for strong back retract.
All right, so prop tanks are go for press for strong back retract, which means the propellant tanks are basically full. You'll see that strong back start to come back. It's only about 1.5 to 2 degrees. That gray arm that's up the right-hand side.
We should hear a call for RP1 full in just a second, and then we'll be looking for the strong back retract to take place in just a few seconds.
Propellant tanks are pressurizing for strong back retract.
Perfect. So what that's going to look like on your screen is up near the top of that rocket.
All right, so it looks like we're doubling up on calls now. We'll see if they stay with the feed at this point because they do have it running in the background.
Wrapped around the second stage of the Falcon.
I can't. He never turns off. He's either on his charger doing stuff or off his charger doing stuff.
Will tilt back just a couple degrees
Oh wow,
for the final minutes of countdown.
that's different. The strong back umbilical tower will actually be lowered to an angle 13 degrees from Falcon 9.
Provides power, fluids, and communication for the rocket up until the time of liftoff, when it will tilt back even further away from the rocket. So
That was a go from the flight director at T-minus 4 minutes 15 seconds.
For today's flight, the folks along the southern coast of California might get a treat if they're outside looking up to the sky.
Right, I'm definitely happy for the people out there in Southern California because, you know, we get a
Hey
million.
Woozle, I wonder what that stuff coming off the rocket is. Probably some kind of vaporization of some kind of propellant that's under pressure. I don't know if we've talked about that before.
For these high inclination launches, so Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich has a 66-degree inclination, which means that it's
Strong back retract is in progress.
to launch south-southeast, and it's really going to kind of ride along the coast of Central and South America on its way up to
No disassemble vector.
Yeah, very good. We just heard there Tim Dunn coming on.
For those of you not familiar, I guess you get some camera time, buddy. Yes, stop. This little guy is Vector. I have no actual positive control over him. He's moving around on my hand on his own. Look, there's a camera right there. Say hi. Hey, Vector. Say hello.
We'll have the automated flight termination
Stage
system
lock
will be
load is
configured
complete.
for launch. We'll get a final go from the launch director at around 45
There he
seconds
goes.
to go on the way to 0 there, right on time for this instantaneous window at 12:17:08 Eastern Time. That's 9:17:08 there on the ground. So Philip,
It's like
really
you put me
fast
back in
here,
my pen, Dad.
waiting for the liftoff. Tell us about the rocket here. You kind of told us about the flight.
T-minus
test,
2
but,
minutes, 55 seconds to launch.
There's a lot going on here.
Right, there's a lot going on.
Stage 1
We
locks,
have
load
beautiful
complete.
views of this Falcon 9, so you can see it's a 2-stage rocket. The first stage, or the booster, goes about 2/3 of the way up, and that actually provides 1.7 million pounds of thrust, which is going to get the vehicle and the spacecraft off of the pad.
So this is being a NASA production today. I don't think we're going to have as great a telemetry as we usually get from SpaceX's production. Everything about SpaceX I love and don't like. Their telemetry for launches is amazing.
And as we've discussed already, that first stage, once it separates,
The payload looks like a space lean-to. It's a space lean-to that measures sea level. Take a BD-8. I mean, this guy.
About a minute into flight, we'll hear calls for flight crew max Q or maximum
One of these.
aerodynamic pressure.
Of course, I got the evil one.
About 2.5 strong back retract has been completed. There you go. You can see a nice separation there between
Strong back complete. Strong back retract confirmed complete. First stage locks loading complete.
A few things happen very rapidly.
T-minus 1 minute 50 seconds.
After that first stage,
Vector is actually the intelligent one. You have to get into programming with the Sphero droids.
That stage 2 liquid oxygen load complete, which is great. You kind of see some of the steam coming off the vehicle. That's
I don't know if steam's the right word.
That's on the order of negative 330 degrees Fahrenheit at
Oh.
specified liquid oxygen mixing with.
I don't think is his name BD-8? I think that's a different robot. I don't know where JC is. I don't keep track of Star Wars stuff that much anymore.
A lot more happening post liftoff, so stay with us. And we even have a lot very late into the show today. We're roughly an hour and a half of milestones past liftoff of getting into.
So we'll see how long we stick with the launch. I'm more likely to get to payload deploy, fairing SEP and payload deploy. That depends on how long that's going to take. Falcon 9 confirmed fully fueled for launch. Total weight at liftoff, 1.2 million pounds. Falcon 9 on internal power.
30 seconds.
So we are at T-minus 30 seconds on the audio feed, so I'm going to bring that down so that we're not ahead of ourselves here. We'll get the feed from...
Go for launch and landing.
There we go. Launch director, go for launch and landing.
Endure this loss and learn from it.
Yep. 1.2 million pounds.
Some water beginning to flood the pad here. That's very intentional.
So yeah, we were ahead of the audio. There's the actual feed now.
To allow the sound of the vibration of the sound to actually
the water spray is a noise dampening mechanism.
Configured for flight.
15 seconds. BD1, there we go.
10,
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And liftoff of Sentinel-6, Michael Freilich.
There she goes.
Continuing a legacy of ocean observation and international collaboration to benefit all humanity.
There's California. It's a clear sky, boy. Clear morning sky out in California. She flies into the atmosphere. No telemetry available to call out for you guys. I wish I had it. Look at that view, though. Trajectory is nominal. Max Q will be coming up here. Vehicle is now supersonic.
Vehicle is supersonic.
Yeah, it's going faster and faster and faster. It's a really, really sharp trajectory.
Vehicle is experiencing maximum aerodynamic pressure.
There's Max Q. Yeah, throttling down to just a little short of maximum for Max Q.
That call for Max Q. We also heard vehicle is supersonic.
So we're coming up on Seco. I'm sorry, not Seco. Miko and S1 SEP will be the next major actions. Main engine cut off.
The plume there created by those 9 Merlin 1D engines.
You can see, especially here on the left-hand side of the fuselage, that grid fin is actually retracted right now. That will come out as per usual for a Falcon 9 first stage landing. This is itchy. Yeah, it's quick to get to max Q because it's not such a shallow trajectory. This thing has to get to a high perigee. And the trajectory is south-southeast. T plus 2 minutes, now soaring at more than 25 miles up. First stage will shut down and jet in less than 15 seconds.
We're going to hear booster or first stage engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
So there's S1 SEP.
Is there visible on screen now? Beautiful shot.
And there's the kick already to 180er. Look at that.
Backflip, as Jesse mentioned, beginning with the Falcon booster.
Stage 1 boost back burn has started.
So what they do that for, boost back, is they want to push it back down to Earth, and then they'll flip it again to reorient the engine so that they face the Earth, so they can slow themselves down. That boost back burn is to push them faster back down to Earth.
And there goes the fairing that's exposed. That is Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich there on your screen.
So fairing deploy.
Satellite that has been exposed now because the fairings have been jettisoned and separated, and you just saw it there tumbling away.
My dad gets hit by eddies.
On the way to orbit.
So second engine is burning. That is a vacuum optimized Merlin. We'll wait for Seco probably.
Boost back burn shutdown.
Boost back burn shutdown on the S1.
So we're getting reverse angle views of that engine on screen. That's what you're seeing. This is switching between opposite sides of that second
Both
stage.
vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
And that term nominal being used, we've heard that a lot during this call out. That's a very good sign, nominal.
Yeah, it looks a little different to everybody who's used to watching Falcon 9 liftoffs because this is a much sharper angle. There's your grid fins out on the S1 as it uses its monoprop to reorient itself.
You can see the hypersonic grid fins.
It'll be the second burn, the re-entry burn will be coming up soon. And also, hey, look, there's proof the Earth is round.
As the booster begins to enter the atmosphere, those will be able to help guide and stabilize the booster to make.
There was some really cool shots from the last KSC pad landing. The grid fins were actually cutting through the clouds. You could see the cloud just ripping through the material there. Round Earth indeed. Now take a look at where she was just in your mind 15 seconds ago to where she is now, and look at the way that angle has shifted to almost from here to more of a lean to chase across the plane of the Earth, because gravity is constantly pulling down on anything in orbit, and the idea of getting into orbit is basically falling faster away from the planet than Earth can grab you, but while still being in its gravitational influence.
So, Philip,
not falling so fast that you
is this just kind of
get out of the gravity well. That's effectively what an orbit is.
Do they kind of just sit and wait as well here? Because obviously we're not controlling this actively. It's just the vehicle, in theory, just doing what it's programmed to do.
Right. I mean, I will say I didn't personally work this mission, so
weaponized
I'm
math.
A coworker who worked it for the past couple of years is thinking, but it's beautiful to watch this trajectory that we've been planning out for years. We know what the math looks like, we know what the numbers are, but actually seeing these views from the second stage.
That's what an orbit is. It's falling faster than Earth can pull you back down, but not so fast that you fall away from Earth. That's an orbit.
You are, by all accounts, a rocket scientist, which is
falling fast enough so that the periods of your elliptical don't hit the Earth in the context of that falling metaphor.
For now, I think we're ready to head back out to check in with Daryl and Jesse to hopefully enjoy what I would expect to be a beautiful, very noisy nominal landing of that booster.
Targeting for landing about 8 minutes after liftoff for back at Vandenberg. So if liftoff was at 12:17, Daryl's not paying attention to you guys. We are now 6 minutes in. You're about coming up on in about a minute or so.
To watch that launch, and they're probably getting positioned.
Second stage firing and everything about the second stage aspect of the craft is reported nominal. First stage has, we already saw it deployed its grid fins. So this is interesting. The kerosene-fueled Merlin 1D upper stage engine can generate about 220,000 pounds of thrust in vacuum. First stage re-entry burn has begun.
So that second stage.
Let's see if they actually get a good camera on it.
Merlin vacuum engine, MVAC as we like to call it, that produces around 210,000 pounds of thrust once it's on orbit in the vacuum of space.
Entry burn has started.
All right, so call for the entry burn there. I think Daryl and Marina are ready for us.
There she is. There's your re-entry burn. That's the second burn.
How was launch?
Oh my goodness!
It's incredible.
It was incredible.
That's why we're all talking at the same time. It's great. Can you tell that we were excited? We were standing.
There's California. She's coming back down, reorienting for land using that monoprop.
The entire time, Jesse. I mean,
what a great shot that is.
So it's going to be landing right behind us, and we've got a view now of the actual booster coming back. It's got its grid fins out. And that's helpful. It has to use those things.
Yep, it has to help steer it.
What a shot. Look at, you can see the foam of the waves coming in. It's a great shot.
Steering mechanism.
It's really interesting that it lands right next to the launch pad.
There she is coming back down.
Over top of us, so we're not going to see that first boost back burn. But we have a clear shot.
Stage 1's transonic, meaning it's coming back through the sound barrier.
Waiting for, and we're making sure that we.
There it is. There's adjusting. There's your landing burn.
Stage 2, and we're going to call that out. Here it comes. There it is.
Look at them. They're excited because they can see it live. That's amazing.
And just straighten it out. What do you think, Jesse? That's amazing.
Oh my goodness, I might cry right now.
It's an apt Douglas Adams quote.
So incredible. Every time I see this, it's just
slowing down so perfectly.
Perfect.
Just hovering.
There's the boom. It knocked their camera out. It was so close to landing. It's on the ground. Perfect. Perfect.
The power to see it here in person, to feel it.
Oh, and like Jesse said, no matter if you see it or not, you always hear it, right? That sonic boom is recognizable wherever you are.
Reverberating through the valley.
I hope they get a horizontal view of it instead of the vertical cam down, that we can actually see the proximity to Slick 4E.
Seeing it in person is a whole
That's really cool.
The crowd that's with us, you can hear them cheering and everything.
That was cool. Those are great. The recoveries on land are the best ones because seeing, like, you can't really tell how close you are when it's over the ocean, but when you see the land and you see that coastline, you see those buildings start to come into focus. There's like there's a wow element to that. Just simply really cool.
All right. Well, the coast phase is about 45 minutes.
Okay, so we're not going to stick around for a 45-minute coast.
Any activity to report at this time.
So what the coast phase means, and we'll bring this down a little bit, is the coast phase. Oh, they're going to do science?
And we're going to get to that in a moment.
So if they're in the coast phase, going to do science. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a restroom, and I'll bring this up so you guys can hear it. And I'll be back in just a few, and you guys can watch this from the BRB screen, which will still have this running.
That's going to allow both channels, both ESA and NASA, to carry the same broadcast at the same time. Going to talk a lot about science, and we're going to get to that in a moment. But first of all, I want to get your reaction to watching both the launch and the landing.
It's spectacular, Daryl. I mean, it's so beautiful when everything comes, and like Jesse was saying, a well choreographed ballet. It's the best choreographed ballet in the world, and it did everything that it was supposed to. The launch was beautiful. I'm so glad the winds quieted down when they were supposed to so that we could get that rocket launched, because this is incredible science that we're going to get from Sentinel-6, and I just can't wait.
Well said indeed. Okay, now we are going to turn it over to our friends from ESA. Let's join moderator Louise Houghton from the European Space Agency.
Really would like to thank NASA and our friends in the US, also NOAA, for this contribution they have made. Incredible. They have been an excellent partner. They have been very reliable, and they really have delivered their part on time. And in very significant terms. The launcher we have just seen, but also very important instruments like the microradiometer and several other components. And this is a model cooperation I would really like with Thomas and his team in the US discuss further cooperation opportunities, because this is just so wonderful what we have done with Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich, and there is much more to come. I have quite a few ideas. I don't want to go into depth right here, but I think this is so successful that I would like to expand that.
Well, thank you so much, Joseph. I think you're saying there that international partnerships are so important for these space missions moving forward. And we've, of course, been able to monitor the oceans from space for nearly 30 years now. And before we continue this conversation, I want to take a look at a video which will show our achievements to date.
Right.
Sorry, this is a little...
You're coming back to me, or?
Yeah, we are. What would you like to ask me so I can give them my thoughts?
Hey, I'm back. So, wow, their cameras are not really done well here, are they? Do this. All right, so I'll talk about the science. We talked about it earlier. But effectively, what they will be doing is this satellite has radar that is sensitive down to the centimeter that can measure the differences in sea level over the same position over and over and over. Yeah, they've gone to the ESA transmission at this point. They've combined the feeds. So the radar is so sensitive that it can measure the sea level down to the centimeter. And its positioning instrumentation is so sensitive and so precise that it can tell you very much, I am in the same spot I was on my last pass, or this information that's 5 degrees off to my right is where I was on my last pass. That positioning information is extremely, extremely important because they want to be able to say that the aggregate or the average overall of 100 passes indicates that the sea level is this high, so that they get that rolling data set that continues that data record. The other thing that's interesting about Sentinel-6 is it's a part of the Sentinel family, and it works with the earlier Jason family of satellites, and the Cygnus satellites, so that it can actually transmit data to other satellites that are in different orbits, and they can do comparative analysis based on who sees what at which time. That capability is what makes this such a powerful tool with respect to NASA ESA's ability to say this is the trend line of sea level over time. And that sea level over time is what allows NOAA, who's a partner in this program, to go back to governments and say, you have a problem. Sea levels are rising at this rate. And it's not a guess. Here is the 30-year track record of sea level rise in the entire Jason Cygnus Sentinel program that shows this is not, it's not nonsense. We're not making this up. This is a projection. We can make educated projections based off of CO2 content in the atmosphere and the CO2 content in the atmosphere at the times all these measurements were made, and give you an estimate of where sea level's going, based on atmospheric conditions and available ice melt. That's why this is hugely important. The other thing that's the Sentinel series and Sentinel-6A, which is what this satellite is, can do is, in addition to the measurements of sea level and that comparative analysis of data, it can actually do thermographics. It can understand at the different depths of layering in the atmosphere what the temperature is. So imagine it's like taking your hand against the glass of a greenhouse and going, how hot are you? It can do that repetitively over time with the same positioning precision it has for its radar, and say the atmosphere overall or in these areas is hotter or colder at these different levels. And that again informs NOAA and other weather agencies to say, we understand the heating effect of the atmosphere based on this aggregate temperature. With precision, we're able to project globally. That's why this is a huge mission. This isn't putting internet satellites in orbit. This is a big deal science mission. And that's what she's talking about right now. The radiometer and the altimeters that are on board are super sensitive devices. So all of that's what they're going to talk about. To put it in layman's terms, that's the science that's going on with this mission, without having to talk through ESA scientists kind of talking up here. That's the purpose of Sentinel-6. So I did want to talk about one other thing today. Again, we're in a coast phase, and they're still talking up there. But we are rolling into, we've had a rough fall with respect to launches. We've had several launches postponed. We've had a lot of launches that didn't go well. All right, Dustin. Yeah, we will see you on the seas tomorrow, hopefully. For those of you that play Sea of Thieves, we are looking to do a server takeover tomorrow. I will probably be sailing early and getting Razor involved to start taking ships. But the one thing I wanted to show you, and I'm going to turn this all the way down because I'm actually going to go someplace else here, is As I was saying, we're rolling into the end of the rocket season. You know, it starts to get too cold in places for rockets to be reliably launched. Weather gets bad. Usually, the beginning of December is when the windows really start to go out the window, and we don't get a lot of rocket launches until February. We get this 2-month break. So February is a big deal because what happens in February? For those of you who have been paying attention to rocket launches this year, anybody know what happens in February that's a big deal? Mars. Lots of things landing on Mars. 3 things landing on Mars. The Hope, which is the Emirates lander. We have the Chinese lander, and then we have Perseverance. Perseverance is the one we're likely going to get the most coverage and information on, but Perseverance lands in late February. So we didn't do a lot of this, and we should do a lot of this. Let me go find where it is. Where I have this pinned. Yep, I do. So let's have a check-in on Perseverance, yeah? Here's Perseverance, Mars 2020 spacecraft. You want to get an idea, there's Bennu, the asteroid that was just landed on by OSIRIS-REx. That's its white line track right there. There's the Parker Solar Probe. There's the Sun. But as we back off of here and have a look around, and I always do this, I always right-click on this for some reason. If you want to have a look around at where it is, there's Earth, way off in the distance. To give you an idea of scale, she's on her way to Mars. I'm looking for Mars, and I can't find Mars. There's Mars. She's much closer to Mars than she is to Earth. You can actually start to understand the intercept track at this point with how close she's getting. She's about December, January, February, so about 3.5 months away. But this probe with a lander and a helicopter is on her way to Mars. We are going to be all about covering that when she lands in February. If you've never seen the orrery, it is pinned, the Perseverance link in the orrery, which is what this application I'm showing you now is pinned in the mission control channel of the Discord. Can I link it? Sure. This is the Perseverance link to the orrery. But if you've never looked at NASA's orrery, there's lots and lots of stuff you can do. Like if you wanted to look, you can look for all sorts of things here. Like there's the solar system. You can start getting in here and having a look at, there's where Ceres is, major asteroids. Again, the Parker Solar Probe. There's Earth in relation to where Bennu is, where OSIRIS-REx is. There's Mars 2020 to give you an idea of there's Earth, there's Mars. You can actually almost follow its track from where it launched back in July 30th, and see its intercept track to Mars, which will be out here come February. But you can come in here and look at all manner of things. The orrery tracks all major controllable craft that's a NASA object. So if you want to go in here and go, I don't know if Sentinel will be in here yet. No, they don't have Sentinel up. But yeah, this is a great application. It's actually very approachable for kids if you're an educator, or if you're talking to kids about space. The idea that you can manipulate this and see where each thing is and click on a thing and get an understanding of Psyche is a giant metal asteroid comprised mostly of metallic iron and nickel similar to Earth's core. Its year in terms of orbit is 5 Earth years. Its distance from the sun is 2.5 to 3.3 AU variable. It's named for the Greek goddess of the soul. It has 2 moons. It's an asteroid with 2 moons. You can sit in here forever and learn all sorts of stuff in the orrery. So if you want to go back to Mars 2020, there's what the mission is. It launched July 30th. It contains a rover. That rover has a helicopter. It's going to Mars. That's its primary target. It's 42.74 million miles from Earth since we saw it lift off. Its speed relative to the sun is 57,000 miles per hour. So imagine that's about 4 times as fast as the ISS is going right now. So if you never dug into the orrery is an amazingly cool platform to kind of start understanding where things are, how they travel, where all these things you read about in the news is. It's just an amazingly cool tool. It is linked in the pins in my Discord channel in the Outlaws Discord. If you're not over there, I don't know if this command will work because I've been messing around with my bots a lot, but there it is. That's the link to get into the Outlaws Discord. Don't forget, if you want a Streamloots pack of cards, they are available. One of them just popped, the link to it just popped in chat. So we're going to roll into this lull now with respect to what's going on with spaceflight. There's going to be a few more launches. There will be the Falcon 9 launch for Starlink actually later today, which I'm not going to broadcast for because we've kind of been there, done that with Starlink. Coming up on the schedule, though, the upcoming launches after today. They have a Soyuz resupply, which we're not going to get a good shot at. There is an Angara dummy payload launch. There is a Falcon I-2. It's a government top-secret payload for Ariane Space. It's after Thanksgiving. And then there's a Delta IV Heavy. Sure. They have it currently scheduled for November 29th. This Delta IV Heavy launch we've been following all year and has had been plagued by problems is currently scheduled for the end of November. We'll believe it when we see it. I think that thing doesn't fly until 2021. Some more Chinese launches we will never see, and we're into December at that point. A lot of these are unconfirmed dates, and I don't think a lot of these are going to launch when they, say they will. The only other thing that's really interesting is Virgin Orbit has Launcher 2, which is Launch Demo 2 for their commercial space program. That'll be after Thanksgiving, the Monday after Thanksgiving. We'll see if that holds. That's usually daytime. It's really hard for me to cover, but we will post links in Mission Control if you're interested in that. So, the Sentinel-6 is currently in the coast phase. It's going to last probably another 30 to 35 minutes, and they will get to deployment of the payload at that point, and then it will get on to its business of doing all the science we just talked about. So, there's not going to be a whole lot more to the launch beyond confirming that it's injected correctly in its orbit. That will happen in the Discord channel if you want that confirmation. You can follow NASA's Twitter for sure. They'll tell you there. Or I will definitely post when I see it in my Discord channel what's going on with the mission. But that's it. There's not much else to see today. This is a 5-year mission for Sentinel-6. It will do the ongoing data record of sea level change and the new aspect of its mission, which is to start recording the different depth layering of the atmosphere and what the temperatures are there. All of this hopefully in an effort to start getting the attention of people to say, global warming's real. We should start doing something about it. Here's the data to support this, that we've had for forever, but here's some more. And we can hopefully pivot science into action sometime soon, because that is what is needed with respect to global warming. But unless anyone has any questions, which I don't think we're going to have that many questions, I'm going to go see if there's someone we can raid. Take this group of intrepid space adventurers over to. Let's see. I know that Das Valdez, he's a great streamer. He's going to continue to cover this if you guys are interested. Yeah, just going to mute them. They have their own telemetry. So I'm going to take you over to Das. Das's group of individuals is really good at what they do. They cover some things, and I'm like they covered the rocket recovery on the drone ship. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to watch a video of a ship carrying a rocket, but we're going to take you over to Das. Das is a great guy. Again, if you're continuing to be interested in seeing what happens with this mission, they're going to have their own telemetry mapping. You can actually see Das's channel above me right there and what they're tracking. Woozle, thanks for hanging out. Terry, glad we could be here to provide some insight. You're welcome, Mads. I'm going to sign off. You guys have a great afternoon, and hopefully I'll see some of you sailing tomorrow. Until then, have a good one. Hey, look, it didn't work. Because you know why it didn't work? Because I opened OBS after I opened Scorpbot. It didn't log in. We're going to do that now. We're going to connect it, and then we're going to try to do it again. So how about this? You guys have a great afternoon, and I'll talk to you later. Take care, kids. Later, nerds. It still didn't work. Why is it not working? That's awesome. I really want my outro to work. Where is my outro on my list? There it is. All right, I'll talk to you guys later.